Rei and Lilith, both flesh and soul, are in the same room, naked, in front of the man that for years have used them for this moment. We know at this point that Gendo implanted Adam's embryo in his hand as part of his plan. But wasn't necessary though. He could have just given it to Rei, you may say. And that the reason behind this is that Gendo wants to be in control all of the time. He knows a single mistake could mean the end. And the best way to ensure that everything will go according to his script is implanting the embryo in his body. But Gendo knew that for all of this to work out, he needed to bring together Adam and Lilith, the Forbidden Union. In this case, Rei, with Lilith's soul, and him, Gendo, with Adam embryo. This should do the trick. Rei cannot hold her body together anymore as we see her arm falling to the floor, which coincidentally is the same arm from which Rei too suffered injuries in the past as a result of Gendo's decisions. Rei is losing her human form not only because she stops taking her medication, nor the lack of time in her tank. We saw she was into LCL a few minutes ago, but because her body, as a vessel, cannot sustain the powerful soul of Lilith that was being restrained by this body AT field anymore. Gendo orders Rei to take him to Yui. Without showing any reaction, Rei just stands there, with her dismembered arm in the floor, letting Gendo introduce Adam in her body, going through her breast, a similar scene that we saw in episode 5, when Shinji touched Rei with Gendo's glasses as the main focus of the sequence. While Gendo is doing this, Rei reacts in pain. Her virgin body is being invaded by Gendo, from top to bottom. Her pain is not so much physical but spiritual. She has obeyed him, lowering her AT field. All of this while being very aware of what is happening outside, having a connection with Shinji. The sequence is interrupted by Shinji in EVA 1, witnessing the fate of Asuka and releasing his inner pain by screaming out loud. Yui, the mother, can feel her son suffering and releases herself from her shackles. The fully awakened artificial god makes Longinus to react, and as for one of his purposes to stop the Forbidden Union as a god-killer weapon, quickly comes down from the moon, just to stop a few inches from its neck. But why the spear stopped and didn't fulfill its destiny? Well, it's unclear. It can be argued that EVA 1 is not Adam nor Lilith, but a clone of Lilith, so the spear is confused on how to proceed. Another argument can be that this EVA was created specifically for this day, and was always part of the plan for the EVA to eventually control the spear at will. Either way, the spear is now in scene. Cele, happy by its return, now see an opportunity to go back to their script. According to the classified information from which we need to pull from, given the convolution of the next sequences, the committee saw the Evangelion units as some kind of arcs in which they want to end up in order to be the artificial god that will lead humanity, now as a primordial soup, into a new future, a new beginning. There are going to be many religious references from here onwards. Well, more than usual. The EVA being crucified and elevated to divinity and the stigmata on Shinji's hand, which is only a shadow, as well on his mother's, reflects the crucifixion of the Son of God in Christianity. This is the first time that we will actually see this in this movie, but not the last time, as for the holes in the hands are important for opening up in the subsequent scene. The MPEs, following Cele's orders, become bright, as Adam did just before the second impact, and draw a Sephiroth, which we went over in the second video of this series. The whole transition of events makes the Magi go wild, and the Nerf personnel back in command are having troubles to keep up. All of this while the elite troops outside realize that they've been defeated and wiped out by a big explosion. Koso seems to understand what is happening, the appearance of an anti-AT field. Now, an anti-AT field causes an AT field to disappear. An AT field is the barrier that keeps individuality and souls, not only in humans, but also in angels. in order for instrumentality to work, every single AT field should be eliminated. And for that, you need a very powerful anti-AT field to do it. Adam displayed an anti-AT field during the second impact to erase humanity and prepare the environment for his children, the angels, the legit heirs of this planet. But its core collapsed due to the experiments conducted by the Katsuragi expedition, causing a major explosion that was later known as the second impact, and reducing his body to an embryonic state which now resides in Gendo's hand, but not for much longer. To produce an anti-AT field, you will need what Adam had in his core, an S2 engine, something that Gendo and Cele were looking to develop, specifically from some shell's core. Unit 1 has a natural S2 engine given that it aided from Zerel, while Cele was able to create an artificial one after losing Unit 4 in Nevada and introduce it into the MPEs. Now, with all of these S2 engines, it is possible to create a very powerful anti-AT field that makes instrumentality viable. The explosion that caused the end of the GSSDF was the result of the EVAs calling for the Black Moon, Lilith's egg, and for the AT fields to disappear. This moon will be the container of all of the souls once the anti-AT field fulfills its task. The big reveal of this sequence is that the Black Moon was always in the geofront, and the reason why NERV was situated there, under the city known as Tokyo 3, which means that Cele did not put Lilith there, but actually they found her there, inside her egg. In episode 23, when Ritsuko was explaining Rei's origins, she clearly states that Koph was empty. There were no souls anymore. This is confirmed by Kousu here, but he says the egg is an empty shell. Thus, we can assume that Koph and the Black Moon, aka Lilith's egg, are closely related, and some will say that they are the same thing in Neon Genesis Evangelion. In either case, Kousu lets it pretty clear. The decision of whether Cele's, Gendo's, or a third way scenario will play out will depend only on Lilith's will. Rei has long decided she will side with Shinji, and everything will go as he wants. While Gendo is deep in her body with Adam in his hand, Rei looks at him, at us, the audience, and clearly states that she's not his, our puppet, and thus proceeds with her revenge after being used as a tool, not letting her live or die, manipulating her at will after all these years. This is her will, her decision, severing Gendo's arm and swallowing Adam. She regenerates her arm easily, as Unit 1 did against Zerel, turning her back to him, and without looking back, she returns home. Gendo, who begs her to listen to him, can only witness how his wife clone is leaving him, and as Yui did before her, merging with a god. Lilith heals quickly and frees herself from the ties of men. The assimilation with the soul happens really fast. She lets Cele's mask to fall off, and Rei takes control of the body. As Lilith would assume Rei's form. That is the only reason why this happens. If things were going pretty weird, the following sequences takes the prize, as for Lilith, rises as a god from her former prison without showing her face. Is this supposed to be a reveal? Slowly growing as a technique to cause anxiety in the audience as for something of extreme importance is going on, but we do not know what it is, what exactly has awakened. Aoba and Hyuga let us know that a blue type has been detected. So an angel, right? Well, no, a human. As we all know that Lilith is the source of the Lilims, humans, which makes her the mother of all humans. But still the second angel, and still with Adam, the first one, inside her. Maya goes insane just by feeling her touch. It's something that the human mind cannot comprehend. Shinji sees Misato's cross, doesn't let her go even though that she's dead, as Asuka, Kaoru, gone as all of his friends, sits there crying, waiting for something to happen, whatever that might be. Yui, in the meantime, waits for her moment. Everything seems to be going as she wanted to. So all she will have to do now is that. Wait. Lilith rises as a person that just woke up from a long deep sleep. And the first thing that her black eye sees is these tiny insects suspended in front of her. She proceeds to take them, but then Shinji calls Rei's name. Now Rei has awakened within Lilith, and she gained full control over the situation. Shinji can be sure now. This grotesque monster is in fact Rei Yanami, and madness overtakes him. Cele, who didn't have Shinji in the original script, doesn't have any option now than to accept the situation, and under religious chant, hope that the third child will take them to their paradise. With this, added to Gendo's defeat and Yui's waiting, let us know loud and clear that Shinji will be the only responsible for what happens next. Shinji, in his madness, rejects reality. It's way too painful for him. Succumbs to his feelings, which produces the MPs to laugh and display eyes on their wings. That might be yet another religious reference to cherubim, a low-rank angel in the celestial hierarchy only above seraphim, and direct servants of God. If all of this wasn't enough to drive someone mad, the MPEs takes the face of Rei as well, because now the goal is to lose sanity and push Shinji into madness, and from it, make a decision. Yui awakes by reaching ecstasis and uncovers Unit 1 core. The table is finally set, where Shinji is trying to escape this reality, pulling and pushing the handles in terror. Koso understands that the only reason instrumentality hasn't begun yet is because it's not Lilith but Shinji who has to take the decision on how everything will play out. But in his madness, Shinji cannot think. He only wants to escape, and then Kaoru appears. This added to Misato's cross, Shinji is in that place where others protect him, where he can feel relaxed and in peace. Why this reaction with Kaoru, not with Rei? Well, Shinji doesn't understand what Rei is after the events of episode 23. She scares him. Kaoru's presence will allow Shinji to open his AT field instead of having it up, rejecting Rei. He does accept Kaoru, and he smiles, closing his eyes in the process. This allows Longinus to penetrate Eva's 1 core, which results in the appearance of the Tree of Life. With this work done, Kaoru leaves it to Rei, as it should be, and Yui asks his son for his wish. We will retake it from here on my next installment as we take a closer look to the End of Evangelion. I publish Evangelion and other anime content each week. If you don't want to miss the next episode, be sure to subscribe and hit that little bell notification button. If you have already but you still feel that you are missing on the notifications, consider to follow me on Twitter at miksanz or join my Discord for free, where I provide daily updates to the channel, Evangelion news and current and classic anime insights and discussions. You will find the link on the description section down below. Guys, thank you all so much for watching, and as always I wish you all a wonderful day.